It happened again. A thunderous crash outside my front door shattered the quiet morning, followed by the sharp screech of tires peeling away down the street. My heart jumped. I dropped my coffee and bolted to the porch before even seeing what had gone wrong. There it was, my mailbox, smashed to splinters, sprawled across my crushed tulips like some twisted crime scene. Standing there on the edge of my lawn, fist clenched, I watched a white SUV speeding away, dust trailing behind it like a getaway car in a bad movie. And behind the wheel was Nancy, her face twisted in laughter, eyes squinting, mouth wide open like she'd just pulled the biggest prank ever. In the passenger seat, her twin sister Barbara was filming the whole thing, like it was some kind of reality show stunt. That was the third time in 2 months that I knelt beside the ruins, picking up a twisted piece of metal that used to hold my street number. One screw was still warm, hot enough to burn, and though it reeked of burnt paint and gasoline. Tire marks carved a jagged scar across my lawn, and they didn't even bother to cover it up. Nancy and Barbara, the Karens of the neighborhood, had declared war, and me? I was the fool who thought civility could win. They moved in 6 months ago, and everything spiraled downhill fast. Picture this: two identical hurricanes of entitlement and floral sundresses, in their early 40s, both a little too round, always sweating and wheezing just walking down the street. But man, their voices could cut glass. You heard them before you saw them, a blast of cherry-scented perfume trailing behind their massive white Escalade they called the Queen Barge. And oh, did they treat that SUV like royalty, except it drove like a wrecking ball. My mailbox was their favorite target. The first time, they called it an accident, a light bump that split the post but left the box hanging. I fixed it without a word. Everyone deserves one mistake, right? Then came round two. This time, they barreled right through it and kept going. Later, I caught Barbara outside and asked about it. She laughed, sipping her Diet Coke like she was doing me a favor, and said, "Maybe don't put it so close to the road." I barely held back my sarcasm. That's where mailboxes go. Her comeback? Well, if it was prettier, maybe I'd try not to hit it. Ugly things are hard to see. It wasn't just the mailbox. They blocked driveways, parked across trash pickup spots, blasted music until 2 a.m., and played dumb when confronted. They called the HOA on neighbors for the smallest things and once accused my elderly neighbor of threatening them, just because he asked them to turn down their speakers. But that mailbox? That was personal. After the second incident, I went to the HOA. Their response: "We'll look into it." They never did. Then I filed a police report, only to be told it was a civil matter without clear evidence of intent. No charges, no consequences. So I installed a security camera, motion-activated, wide-angle, expensive but necessary. 2 weeks later, at 7:13 a.m., I caught them in the act. Nancy lined up her SUV halfway down the street, then slammed it into my mailbox like she was playing Grand Theft Auto. The post exploded, splinters flying everywhere. Barbara laughed so hard she spilled her iced coffee. They didn't stop, just kept driving. I showed the footage to the HOA again. Neighbors should resolve this themselves, they said. I called the police. Still no criminal intent. Could be an accident. Yeah, an accident caught on camera with laughter in the background. The next day, I confronted them while they were unloading groceries. Nancy wore a lime green dress with pink roses. Barbara had sunflowers. I held up the video, asking for an explanation. Nancy barely glanced and said, "Photoshop. Deepfake." Barbara added, without looking up, "You know this is harassment, right?" I told them they were targeting my property. Nancy stepped forward, breath smelling of peanut butter crackers. "You put your mailbox too close to the street. You're asking for it." I said it was exactly where the city placed it. "Well, the city's dumb," Barbara said, "or maybe you're trying to scam us for insurance money." I blinked. I haven't asked for a dime. Their smugness was a wall you couldn't punch through. They were playing some twisted game, and no authority cared enough to stop it. That night, sitting in my garage, staring at the wreckage that used to be my mailbox, I wasn't angry anymore. Just tired. Tired of fixing what they broke. Tired of their loud voices and stupid dresses and mocking laughter. The only thing louder than their SUV was their sense of entitlement. I did what anyone pushed to the edge would do. I started researching. Indestructible mailbox, I typed. Turns out, rural folks have been building these things forever: steel posts, concrete cores, armor plating, some embedded into boulders, others mounted on 200-pound bases. There were forums dedicated to mailbox revenge, videos showing mailboxes wrecking cars like medieval traps. One caption read, "They hit me once, never again." That was the spark. I stood up, cracked my neck, and sketched out plans. No more wood, no more nails. I was building a monument, something immovable, invincible, a silent warning point. 2 days later, I cleared out the garage, put on leather gloves, and got to work. This was steel, concrete, and pure stubbornness. I welded together a 6-foot, 4-inch diameter steel pipe, filled with sand and rebar, and buried it deep in 200 pounds of concrete. The mailbox itself looked normal, black aluminum with a shiny chrome flag, but bolted to a reinforced steel plate, backed by half an inch of solid steel. It was bait, disguised as an ordinary mailbox. I poured concrete at midnight, sweat dripping, knees aching, the moon casting a silver glow. When I finished, I smiled for the first time in weeks, whistling softly. By morning, the fortress stood. Around 9 a.m., Nancy and Barbara waddled out in matching floral dresses, today's theme, daisies. Nancy's purse bulged with snacks. Barbara had her phone up, filming as usual. Their queen barge gleamed in the driveway, but reflecting sunlight like a spotlight. She put up another one. Barbara muttered, "Ugly as hell. Think it'll last a week." Nancy scoffed, "Try an hour." I stayed inside, sipping coffee, pulse racing. This was it. The trap was set. Days passed. No hits. Maybe they were cautious. Maybe planning something bigger. Then came the morning I'll never forget. Tuesday, 6:42 a.m. I was pouring water into the kettle when I heard the growl of an engine, tires squealing, someone revving up for impact. I dropped the kettle, ran to the window. The queen barge came barreling down, Nancy driving like a maniac, hunched over the wheel. Barbara screamed something I couldn't hear, phone pointed ahead. Then the crash, metal on steel, a sickening crack, but the SUV didn't bounce off. It recoiled. The bumper folded like paper, the hood crumpled, the front right tire exploded. Steam hissed from the radiator as the vehicle shuddered to a stop in my lawn. Nancy screamed, Barbara louder. Smoke curled into the sky like a distress flare. My mailbox stood untouched. I stepped outside, phone ready, recording. Nancy stumbled out, clutching her arm, face twisted in pain and disbelief. Her daisy dress torn, stained with something brown, maybe coffee, maybe blood. Barbara limped behind, clutching her phone like a lifeline. "You sabotaged us," Nancy screamed, pointing at me. I raised an eyebrow. "You mean I put up a mailbox on my own property? Made it of metal." Barbara spat. "You can't do that. It's illegal." "Actually, it's well within code," I said, stepping closer. "And I have permits. Want to see them?" Nancy turned red. "You're going to pay for this." "You hit my property on camera again," I said, holding up my phone. "But now, you destroyed your own car." "Not me." Within minutes, Officer Ramirez, the same cop who said it was a civil matter, showed up. He looked at the wrecked SUV, then the mailbox. "Same mailbox again?" he asked. "New one." "Reinforced." "Legal." Nancy stormed over, mascara running, sweat gleaming on her face. "He put up a weapon. Look what it did to my car." Ramirez glanced at the footage, lips twitching. "Looks like you drove straight into it." "Ma'am, mailboxes have to withstand weather and accidents. This one's city approved. You drove onto his lawn and hit it intentionally." Nancy opened her mouth, but no words came. Barbara waddled up. "Are you going to arrest him?" "For what? Having a mailbox?" Ramirez smirked. He took notes, filed a report, and left them with the damage. The real blow came hours later. Nancy's insurance company called. I'd emailed them the footage. They denied her claim. Intentional collision, not covered. She was liable for $7,000 in repairs. Barbara tried spinning the story online, blaming me for sabotage. But my uncut, high-res video hit Reddit and exploded, 500,000 views in 24 hours. Karen Twins versus Mailbox Boss, they called it. Memes flooded in. A dubstep remix even showed up. Nancy and Barbara were furious. They stopped driving the Queen barge not by choice, but because it was totaled, parked sideways with a headlight dangling like a black eye. But the twins didn't retreat. They vanished like a storm blown out to sea, quiet for days. I knew they were plotting revenge. I caught Barbara once, staring at me across the street with a slow, unsettling smile that didn't reach her eyes. I smiled back. This time, I was ready. They started small. Soda cans tossed in my yard, crushed chip bags behind hedges, candy wrappers caught in my mower. At first, I thought it was coincidence. Then it got worse. A broken jar of pickles smashed on my driveway. A torn garbage bag dumped near the porch, stinking like a warning. Security footage showed them sneaking across the street at night, Barbara dragging trash like AC.